Joan Collins has appeared in numerous films and television programs. Perhaps her best-known character was Dynasty's Alexis Carrington. She has recently authored a sequel to her best-selling memoir, Past Imperfect, called Second Act. She can also be seen hosting a documentary for American movie classics called Hidden Hollywood, airing on November 18th. What happened? You wrote 2 books. You got a settlement. You did, seem to me, very well. You presented a piece of work that somebody at the publishing house decided wasn't up to their level. Is that what happened?
No, that's not what happened at all.
Not at all.
No, it's not what's happened at all.
Yes.
No, when I started writing these 2 books for a huge amount of money,
yes.
and I even said to Swifty Lazar, who was my agent, this is an awful lot of money.
Yes. You weren't complaining, though.
No, I wasn't.
You were
What, you think I'm going to give it back?
No, you were observing.
I mean, there are people in television now making zillions an episode.
And
anyway.
why shouldn't you?
So he said, you'll have the best editor, Joni Evans. She'll be hands-on with you. I said, yeah, because I really need an editor, like Steven Spielberg does, like everybody needs an editor.
Right.
So what happened was, in the year that I was writing the manuscript, writing the book, as to the first sessions that I'd had with Joni Evans, she was too busy to see me at all.
Right.
She was busy with Michael Caine. So what happened is I finally delivered the manuscript, and 6 weeks after that, Swifty died.
Yeah.
And then they said they didn't like the manuscript. Which, because it was an acceptance clause. There was an acceptance clause in there.
Is that the first time you had that you were aware of that you had an acceptance clause?
No, I knew that they had this, because Swifty always put it in all his contracts with Michael Caine, with Kirk Douglas.
Why would he want that for his client, an acceptance clause? It seems like that benefits the publisher.
No. And it's a non-acceptance clause is what it is. What it is he doesn't want his clients who are actors to give up work for a year or year and a half, work on a book, and then the publishers say they don't like it.
They have to accept it
if it is delivered on time, if it is the right amount of words, if it is a plot and proper characters, and that is what happened. And that is what I delivered, and the book was just as good. In fact, it was better than my previous 2 novels. And then they just kept on saying, no. And I said, well, send me somebody to work with me. What is it you don't like?
They wanted to get out of the obligation.
They wanted to get out of the obligation, and I was being used as a fall guy. And at that particular time, there were a lot of people that they'd spent a lot of money on, giving them huge advances. They were throwing $1 million advances around like confetti. And I think they realized at the beginning of the 90s they had to pull their belt in. So they decided to make an example of me, thinking I would run like a rabbit and say, oh yes, of course, here is your $1 million back, Mr. Vitale, absolutely. But I wasn't prepared to do that, because I had spent a year and a half, and I knew that, given up work, knew that what I'd done was good, and knew that I was being screwed.
And the court decided what? The
court decided, after 5 horrendous days of throwing all kinds of horse manure all over me, of me being terribly insulted, of all kinds of lies being told, the jury decided that I had indeed delivered a proper manuscript, a full manuscript, in a timely manner, and that I should get, keep my advance, which is what I did.
And so you got most of everything that you wanted?
Well, Charles, what I got was, yes, I got that, but don't forget, I'd been with lawyers for almost 3 years. Do you know how much lawyers charge these days? I mean, I've got to the point where if I talk to a lawyer, I say, and he calls, he says, hello, I say, is this costing me?
Yeah, those are the people that you can't call a lawyer and ask him how he feels.
No, you cannot, or even have them come to a drinks party or anything. Definitely not. So practically 3/4 of what I made went to the lawyers. So,
but it was a great, and I'm sure you're right. I mean, it sounds that they really, because this is happening in the publishing, they give out these enormous advances. It sounds good. We've got Joan Collins' new book and all of this, and then they realize, wait a minute, well, we recover this, and then they start to turn it on you. Even though when they sign you, they don't think it's Shakespeare or Kurt Vonnegut or something like that. And then they say, well, what's it's lousy.
It was very unfair. But what I thought was wonderful is that I got so much support from writers everywhere. And when the verdict came through, because it was on court TV, which was not a very pleasant experience at all, because I remember I was feeling, I'm a person who lets my emotions show. I can't be like John Gotti when he was being accused.
No, you're not like John Gotti at all, because we've had John on, and you're totally different.
And so my emotions came through, and I did show that I was thrilled and delighted. And they say things like, she was acting, she gave an Oscar-winning performance there in that courtroom. I wasn't at all. It was very hurtful, it was very painful, it gave me an ulcer. I got an ulcer, and I'm a pretty healthy, touch wood, human being.
I saw it, and I saw everything, and I thought it was a human being showing how she felt, and I was thrilled that they decided on your behalf. And we're going to go to a break, and when we come back, we'll talk about Joan's new book, and that's out. Nobody's suing, nobody's trying to get the money back, and it's filled with stories about Madonna, and I like the one about Lauren Bacall and Warren Beatty. I don't know, I don't know about that one, but we'll come back and talk some more with Joan Call. I'll be right back.
Okay.
You're crazy, Marilyn!
We gotta go!
Marilyn! Marilyn!
You know, people like laugh, and it's fun to see it and everything, you know, but it's not easy. I mean, you're running through the mud and the rain, and...
Oh, that wasn't easy. I mean, I almost died on that picture. I mean, you know, actors have got to make a living, and this was a way of making a living. But, I mean, I got out of the car. I tell the story in my book, and it was so windy you can't believe it. And the Teamster, very politely, held the door open for me, and I remember thinking, how charming, and Teamsters held the door open. He held the door open, but as soon as I just got my head out, he let the door go, and the door in the wind hit me, and the next thing I came to, I'm lying on the floor in the motel with the crew and the cast surrounding me saying, oh, is she gonna live? And a bruise like this. My legs were covered in sores and infections because we were actually in the Florida swamps for 5 weeks. It was hell, that film.
Yeah, people don't really realize. They just see the fame and the money. They don't realize what you actually... On the picture that we did on Sunburn, what's his name? Jorge Lupe, I think his name was. And I don't mind if I didn't get his name right, because he was on top of me in one scene, and he was supposed to punch me in the face and knock me out. I was on my back, and of course you're supposed to come across the face with the camera back here. And he chose to come right at me, and he broke my nose.
That's right.
And my kid was there. My daughter Marion was there as a teenager at the time, you know, and I said, oh, get her out. And there was blood all over the place. And I remember the director, Dick Sarafian, you know.
Oh, yes.
And I said, just wipe the blood off. We can keep going. He said later, you really showed me something there, how you kept going, you know, because he was Mr. Macho, you know. Yes. People that like if you go on even though you're bleeding. Yeah. And then Art Carney was in the picture, and his wife, Jean. We went to dinner. I said, geez, I hope my nose doesn't catch. She says, don't worry about it. I broke my nose years ago, and you can't even tell. I said, let me see, turn profile. And she tried, but, ooh, that's horrible. But no, and when we did King Kong with Jessica Lange, everybody made fun of Jessica Lange. I said, you know, to beat on the chest of a big ape, I mean, who's going to do it that you wouldn't make fun?
Of course.
But movies... movies are hard work.
Oh, they're such hard work. I mean, I've been hurt in movies. I
remember you sitting, we were shooting at night, and we were at some kind of a house, and you said, the director came by, this same guy, and you said, how much longer before we're ready to shoot? And you said, and he said, and you had just come there that night, and he said, it's a tough scene to light, sweetie. And you said, well, it's a tough scene to act, sweetie.
That was good. Yes, I was witty in those days.
You know, but that's what we should do. I mean, because they're trying to patronize and disdain, and because we make more money than they do, and people know who we are, you know, they just deeply resent it.
I think they do. I think basically actors are hated by a lot of people. I think they're hated by producers, by directors, by studio heads. I think even the ones that they pay the $20 million and the $12 million to, I think they're the ones who are the most hated of all.
They really hate them.
Because they've got them right there, haven't they?
You know, I'm not going to mention his name, but I was talking about this once with a friend of mine, a famous movie actor, and I said, I find I'm uncomfortable if I'm on a set and I'm doing something and I feel like there's somebody there that doesn't like me, and I have to go and talk and say, well, is there a problem with something? He says, oh, that never bothers me. I said, why? He said, because I assume everyone hates me.
Oh, did he really? Oh, that's wonderful.
Does it bother you
Yeah.
if you feel any kind of vibe toward you that you know someone, if you know it, if there's a manifestation of it?
No, because I figure there's always somebody out there who hates me. And of course, you know, coming from the theatre,
Yeah.
you know that
Yeah.
in the theatre that out of those 300, 400, 500 people that are out there, there's got to be a good 10% that are thinking, what am I doing here? This woman is awful. She can't act, she can't look, she's hideous, she's ugly, I don't like her, want to go home. So you sort of
But
know
that's
that.
the audience. I mean the people that you had, you know, the producers, the director, the crew,
Oh.
the people that you're actually with. If you feel
Yeah.
the cameraman is angry at you about something, does it bother you if
no,
you felt that?
If I felt the cameraman was angry at me about something, I would go up and say, what have I done? Because he's like the most important man on the picture, right?
You certainly want to get along with him.
Yeah,
Right?
and also with another actor. If another actor I feel has got a certain froideur, I want to say, what is it? You know,
Yeah.
what's happened? But I did have a little bit of a contretemps with John Forsyth on Dynasty for about 6 months, and we didn't talk, which was really quite horrible in one way.
Would
and
you talk
brilliant.
about that? Would you be willing to say why it was caused and what you did about it? We're going to go to a break.
Yes,
We're gonna
it's
come
in my
back,
book. Of course
and
I'll
we're going
talk
to hear
about it.
about what happened between John Forsyth and Joan Collins when we come right back.
If you wish to purchase card orders, please call 1-800-777-8398.
Now, how long did you work with John Forsyth on Dynasty?
About 9 years, I think.
And I contend if anyone works with someone for 9 years, eventually, I'm not saying you'll hate each other's guts, but there will be some kind of estrangement eventually.
Of course.
Any two humans.
Of course,
two
like a
men, two
family,
women,
yeah.
a man and a woman.
Yeah, a dog and a cat.
dog
Yes,
and
it
a
doesn't
cat.
matter. There's always got to be, you know, friction.
How long did it take before you and John stopped speaking?
It happened after about 3 or 4 months, and it was the last day, and we were all going away on holiday. And I also had a scene where he was going to strangle me. And so I was a little bit nervous. So I went to our director and I said, listen, we haven't been talking for 3 months and he's got to strangle me. Do you think we could have Sandy, my double, do the long shot on the stairs? So they said yes. So he did that, and afterwards I went over and I kissed him and I said, you know, have a lovely holiday and see you in 3 months after the hiatus. And it was all, you know, it was just a little friction that happened because of a situation that happened.
What happened? Why was he?
Well,
why was he? Were you angry at him?
Oh
Or was he
no!
was angry at you?
No! I wasn't. What happened was that we were nominated for People's Choice for best.
People's Choice Awards.
People's Choice Awards for the best television show, and we were told we were going to get it. We knew we were going to get it, and we were told that when we all filed up, that it was going to be handed to John, this big glass statue. So we all dutifully filed up. There were 10 or 12 of us, and we walked in, and the girl who was holding the thing gave it to me. Because I was just there. She didn't give it to anybody else. So she put it in my hands. It weighs a ton. So I said, went to Mike Fern and I said, thank you very much. I'm very happy to receive this. And now I will hand it over to our fearless leader. And I gave it to John. And he said, she said enough. She said it all. And he walked off the stage. And he was furious, but it wasn't my fault. And then we did the pictures, and then we had this little contretemps, which was really so silly.
Now, would he describe it the same way, or would he see something else there? Joan was always trying to get the glass thing.
Oh, I'm sure that he would describe it that way.
He would probably describe it.
Yes, he would say, she would push me out of the way. But if you look at the film, you'll see, we're all standing in a line. It was the girl's choice that, you know, the miss.
Right, who just handed it to you.
Just decided to hand it to me.
It's amazing, though. You could take the same story with anyone, any other two people, and say, that's how she described. That's not what happened at all.
Yes. I know, that's the same with any story, any story that you can do with two people.
Now, this is in your, what's your new book called?
It's called Second Act.
Second Act, and is this story is in the new book?
Yes.
And there's a story that I particularly liked about Lauren Bacall and the way you were all dressed and you were going to meet.
The Queen.
The Queen.
Another of our fearless leaders.
Yes, the Queen.
Yes. It was at one of those charities that was given, and Prince Philip was there, and the Queen, and I was very nervous because I had to announce all kinds of things. So I went backstage into the dressing room with Jeffrey, and I'm wearing this long beaded dress. Jeffrey is there. Jeffrey is my PR, who's always with me.
Okay.
Oh, not all the time, but a lot.
Okay.
And in the dressing room were Lauren Bacall, Betty Davis, Gene Simmons, Alice Faye, and various others. And I was wearing this very slinky Marlene Dietrich type dress. And on top of it, I was wearing a very unlaid back, huge feather boa covered in sequins and tassels, and I mean, it came up here and it was all over the place. So I'm ready to go on, and Jeffrey's saying, come on, they want you, and I'm standing in front of the mirror, and I'm sort of arranging it. And Bacall is there, and she looks at me and she said, 86 the feathers, JC. And I said, what? She said, 86 the feathers, it's over the top. I said, well, what you're wearing, which was a very nice, chic, sort of Armani black suit, I said, I would wear to go to a bistro. I said, I'm going on to present this thing to my queen. And I said, I'm not going to wear 86 the feathers. She said, oh, well. She said, I think it's OTT, over the top. So out I went with the feathers, did the thing. Then we had the lineup. The Queen came, met us all, met everybody. And the next day, the only picture that was in the paper was me with these feathers and the Queen. Everybody else was cut out of the picture. So I thought, always be true to yourself.
Oh, yeah. She's, I once sent her a play I'd written. I wanted her to play the female lead, and she called me and she said, you know, I love the play, but where's the part? Oh. Now, tell we just have time, but there's a story about Prince Charles in the book.
Yes.
Tell that story.
Well, I was dancing with Prince Charles at an event, and he was very charming and very attentive and very nice, and he'd just been married to Princess Diana. And I thought, oh, what a wonderful man, and very sexy and charming. And about 3 years later, I opened his autobiography, his biography, and read about this event. Danced with Joan Collins, who had the most amazing cleavage, all pushed up and presented as if on a tray. So I wonder was a problem. Oh, so I thought that was
well, you know,
I wonder, I thought was rather
what does
good
that mean, I
euphemism.
Wonder? What does that mean, I wonder?
I wonder. Well, it means a wandering eye.
Oh, eye-wandering.
Yes, I wonder. It's very
eye-wandering. Well, so it's a nice
you know.
compliment.
Yes, I thought
because,
so.
I mean, why, you know, show it if you don't intend to provoke an eye to wander? I mean, you want to do that, right?
Yes,
and
yes,
that is the goal.
So. But I thought it was very, very sweet because I had never mentioned it. I'd never sort of, but the fact that he put it in his biography. Well, they've all come out with all these, you know, secrets and lies. All the royals right now. It's amazing.
Yeah, and you've got to maybe you'll come back again because we're going to go to a break, and the second act is the name of the book. And I'm sure it's fun obligation.
They wanted to get out of the obligation, and I was being used as a fall guy. And at that particular time, there were a lot of people that they'd spent a lot of money on, giving them huge advances. They were throwing million-dollar advances around like confetti. And I think they realized at the beginning of the 90s they had to pull their belt in. So they decided to make an example of me, thinking I would run like a rabbit and say, oh, yes, of course, here is your $1 million back, Mr. Vitale, absolutely. But I wasn't prepared to do that because I had spent a year and a half, and I knew that, given up work, knew that what I'd manuscript, writing the book, as to the first sessions that I'd had with Joni Evans, she was too busy to see me at all.
Right.
She was busy with Michael Caine. So what happened is I finally delivered the manuscript, and 6 weeks after that, Swifty died. Yeah. And then they said they didn't like the manuscript. Because it was an acceptance clause. There was an acceptance clause in there.
Is that the first time you had that you were aware of that you had an acceptance clause?
No, I knew that they had this because Swifty always put it in all his contracts with Michael Caine, with.
It wasn't up to their level. Is that what happened?
No, that's not what happened at all.
Not at all.
No, it's not what happened at all.
Yes.
No, when I started writing these 2 books for a huge amount of money, and I even said to Swifty Lazar, who was my agent, this is an awful lot of money.
Yes, you weren't complaining, though.
No, I wasn't.
You were
well, you think I'm going to give it back?
No, you were observing.
I mean, there are people in television now making zillions an episode.
And
anyway.
why shouldn't you?
So he said, you'll have the best editor, Joni Evans. She'll be hands-on with you. I said, yeah, because I really need an editor like Steven Spielberg does, like everybody needs an editor. Right. So what happened was, in the year that I was writing the...
Joan Collins has appeared in numerous films and television programs. Perhaps her best-known character was Dynasty's Alexis Carrington. She has recently authored a sequel to her best-selling memoir, Past Imperfect, called Second Act. She can also be seen hosting a documentary for American movie classics called Hidden Hollywood, airing on November 18th. What happened? You wrote 2 books. You got a settlement. You did seem to me very well. You presented a piece of work that somebody at the publishing house decided.
Kirk Douglas.
Why would he want that for his client, an acceptance clause? It seems like that benefits the publisher.
No. It's a non-acceptance clause is what it is. What it is he doesn't want his clients who are actors to give up work for a year and a half, work on a book, and then the publishers say they don't like it.
They have to
accept it if it is delivered on time, if it is the right amount of words, if it is a plot and proper characters, and that is what happened. And that is what I delivered, and the book was just as good. In fact, it was better than my previous 2 novels, and then they just kept on saying no. And I said, well, send me somebody to work with me. What is it you don't like?
They wanted to get out of the